Hi, my name is Jason Morgan. I'm a wildlife artist. Welcome into my studio. And most of you probably know me for painting oils or alkyd oils, and I've been doing those for probably around about 20 years now. I've done other mediums as well. I've done a little bit with graphite, I've done a little bit with white pastel, I've done a little bit with charcoals, usually on black paper as well. So I've dabbled, you know, a little bit in other mediums, but I'm mainly known for alkyd oils or oil painting and the wildlife. So I tried to diversify a little bit as well, and around about probably 15 years ago I had a little dabble with pastels. So I just bought a very basic set, I bought some decent paper, or what I thought was decent paper, tried to do one or two wildlife areas in it, and complete disaster. It just didn't work at all. It was just really frustrating for me, and I put it to the side and I've never done anything with it since. But recently I've seen, especially on Instagram, I've seen lots of people doing some real detailed wildlife art with pastels and also portraits as well, and I thought perhaps it'd be time to have another go. And I got hold of some certain, you know, supplies. I could see that lots of people were using either pastel mat or vela paper, so I got hold of what I thought would work, and I had a quick go. And yesterday I did this leopard's eyes, and it all worked out really well. It was completely different than when I first tried pastels, and I could see then that a lot was dependent on the materials with this. Now, I've tried coloured pencils in the past, and I think I didn't really get on with them that well, and the reason is, when you're painting with oils, you generally go from dark to light. And when you do coloured pencils, it's kind of the reverse of that, because it's more difficult to get a light on top of a dark. So it really didn't work out well in my head that I was trying to switch from, you know, reverse techniques all the time. But with pastel, it's very similar to painting. So you can work dark to light, and you can overlay the light on top, and that makes painting or drawing fur really much more straightforward. So when I posted that little picture I just showed you on my Facebook channel, I had lots and lots of people asking me what paper I was using, what pencils I was using, what pastel sticks I was using, how I was sharpening them. Lots and lots of questions. Now, I'm an absolute beginner. So I've painted for many years, but I'm an absolute beginner with pastels. I don't know much, but I do know what's worked for me so far, and I can share that with you, so that hopefully if you're trying to get into pastels, or you want to restart them because you've had a bit of frustration at the beginning, if we all get the same type of materials, we can learn about pastels together. I'm not bound by any companies saying about papers or pencils, nothing whatsoever. I bought all this material myself, so I don't owe anyone anything, so it's all my unbiased opinion. And some things could be right and some things wrong, but I know what worked to create this little leopard painting. So let's have a look, see how I did it, and see the materials that I'm using. Okay, so let me start by showing you a couple of the tools that I'm using, the supplies. So if you want to follow along and you want to get exactly what I've got, this is my complete set of everything that I've got. So I got the Stabilo Carbofello pencils. I bought the 60 because I was pretty sure I was going to like pastels anyway, so I thought I'd get a full set. So I got the 60 of those, and I got them half price. I found them in a sale, so that was a really good bargain. Lots of colours, ranging from vibrant down to the earthy colours as well. So that's my pencil set. Then I've got the Conti sticks, and they're great for actually blocking in, is what I use them for really. So putting in the underlayers. So you can see there's loads and loads of these tiny little sticks, and they're all quite hard. I haven't actually gone on to really soft pencils yet, but the first one that I've done, the leopard's eye that we'll see, that's using these for the underdrawing, under painting, and then the pencils on top really. Okay, so that's what I'm using. So I'll put that to the side. And then papers. You see, I tried pastel drawing ages ago, a few years ago. Had a quick attempt, nothing worked right, gave up on it, figured that wasn't for me, I couldn't actually do it. Looked simple when other people were doing it, tried it myself, just would not work. Okay, let me show you some of the papers that I've got here and why people's techniques are not working for them probably, and what to start out with, or at least as I'm a beginner myself, what I've started with now, and it's working. So, you know, I can try different colors, different pencils, but this is what has actually worked so far. So let me show you these other papers first. Okay, Daler-Rowney Pastel. Daler-Rowney is a good make. It's well known. I figured I'd be okay with a good quality paper from them, so I got a pastel pad, multicolours in it, 160 grams per square metre, £98. Okay, how was that? I got a natural colour of that. Clairefontaine, I just got one of their cheap pads. Okay, now the pastel mat is what I'm using, but this was just a cheap pad that they say takes pastels, paints, pencils, you name it. So, you know, it'll do a bit of everything, but probably not anything that good. But, you know, it's what they call a universal. So it's 250 grams per metre squared, so it's a lot thicker than the Daler-Rowney. And then the final one is the Clairefontaine, again, pastel mat. So that's really popular. You find lots of wildlife pastel artists, or ones that are doing a lot of detail, are either using pastel mat or they're using velo paper. That's the two that you almost always see. So what I got myself a couple of pads of pastel mat in different colours. Heaviest of the lot, 360 grams per square metre, £170. And it is really thick, yeah, really thick, shiny white like card on the top, and then it's got this surface that I could describe as probably something like sandpaper, but the finest sandpaper ever. But it's got that texture to it. Clairefontaine's got virtually nothing, and then this Daler-Rowney, you can see how flimsy that is, really flimsy, and it's got these lines going across it as well, like a texture of horizontal lines and then some vertical lines as well, which I don't particularly like. So let me show you these in action a little bit. Okay, so if I was doing, like when I'm doing the Leopard, I did a bit of a darker underlayer. Okay, so I'll use these sticks and I'll just lightly, you know, moderate pressure, putting an underlayer on there. Okay, let me zoom in so you can actually see it a bit better. Okay, so that's just my tonal underlayer. You can see straight away, I'll blend it, quite firm pressure, all these horizontal lines showing up, the vertical lines showing up. Do the same on this universal paper. Okay, so it hasn't got any of the lines in it. Obviously the lines that I'm drawing are there. And then I'll do the same on this pastel mat as well. You can hear the difference straight away. And you also notice how much more even it's applying. Yeah, and it stays there. I'm blending it, but it really stays there. If I want to blend it a lot, I can use a stump and really get it in there. Okay, so let's go a bit harder on there. And here. See as well how this holds the pastel. So people who ask me about the dust to a pastel, well, with this pastel mat it's kind of like on there. With this, you see all the dust around the edge, and with the Daler-Rowney, so it's not holding the pastel. And with this one, it's all dusty as well. You can see I can blow it off and it's showing those lines up. Okay, so if I go for a very light colour now, because when you're doing wildlife, or when I'm doing wildlife, I want a layer. Okay, so I can layer on top, and it's, look how difficult it is for that to stick onto the paper, and it's picking up a lot of the actual underlayer. And see, I can just blend that straight away really easily. So I'll clean that off a bit. So this is the general type of paper, Clairefontaine. So that's holding my lines a bit better. And then try the pastel mat too. And look how different that is. You can see how easily I could create fur with those lines. And see how it's kind of like stuck there? It's down on there. I can blend it, yes, I can blend it, I can soften it, which is what I want, but it really holds it there. Whereas with these, they just wipe away. And then sometimes you want to put another layer of colour on top. So just like glazing, really. So I've used a real different colour so it'll show up. But with this I can actually kind of glaze on top, and you can still see the underlayer through it. See that? With this, obviously, this dale around here, I haven't got a chance really. And these lines are so off-putting, I don't see how anybody can actually do anything with that. And then I wasn't expecting magical things with this anyway, but in fact it's better than the Dale Around. And that's just Clairefontaine cheap paper. So what I'm just showing you really is that, get the right tools for the job to make life easy. Lots of these papers, they're all kind of the same type of price. It's not this exceptionally expensive to get a pastel mat, so you might as well get it straight off, get something that we know is going to work, and then you can forget about the materials being the problem, and have I got to buy a better pencil, and have I got to buy a better paper. If you get these, and I'm not paid off to say this, these are just the first bits of kit I got. I saw what other people was using, what lots of people were using, and I decided to get something that's proven, because their techniques were exactly the type of drawings and paintings with pastel that I wanted to try and replicate myself. And I found that these materials were the ones that they were generally using. So they were using pastel mat or vella, and I haven't used that myself. I've only used this pastel mat and it worked for me, but I am going to try the vella as well, just out of curiosity. And now I've got this set of materials, I can build upon it, so I can get different and extra pencils, different colors, and I can get softer pastels and try it. But I've got this basic set and I know this works for detailed wildlife art. So let's have a look, let's have a see how I create the eyes of the leopard using these materials, and hopefully you'll like to try pastel pencils and pastels yourself too. Okay, so let's start off with this pastel drawing, and I've got my reference photo in my hand on the left, and I got this one from a great wildlife photographer, Chad Cocking. I did a painting from this a few years ago, and because I wanted to do an eye, this is probably the best wildlife eye and head photograph that I've got and that I've ever seen really, and I thought it'd be really good to try this one out because there's lots of different contrasts and fur textures in it. So I'm going to approach pastels just like I do with oils. So I'm going to work mainly from light to dark. So I'm going to have dark underlayers on the fur as well, so that my light areas show up. So if anybody have seen any of my other videos, I keep on all the time that you've got to have a darker underlayer so that the light layers show up on top. Otherwise, it's kind of like putting white chalk on top of white paper and it's just not going to show. So that's what I'm going to do, and first thing I'm doing is blocking in. Now, as I've said, I'm completely new to pastels, so everything I'm trying is for pretty much the first time, and some things will be wrong and some things will be right. But I shot this video, I let it shoot while I was doing the drawing, and it turned out, better than I was expecting in the end. So that's why I'm now going over it, doing the voiceover and editing it for you, so you can learn alongside me as I'm going along too. So basically I've got pastel pencils and I've got pastel sticks. Now the sticks, they're hard sticks, so I haven't really got any what they would call soft, very soft pastels at all. So I'm using these hard sticks like a pencil, and what I'm doing is using them for the larger areas of blocking in, and then for the finer details, that's when I'm going to come in with the pencils, because I can sharpen them easily and I can get the detail with it. So basically, just as I would with an oil painting, I'm just going to block in these darker areas with the stick. And with that blocked in, I figured, you know, I've done a couple of pieces of white on black with charcoal, and I remembered that they were much more vibrant and solid looking when you blend them in. So I've taken the stump that came in the set, which is just, you know, your usual paper stump, and I'm using fairly light pressure, and basically what it's doing is blending those darks in. So it's filling up a little bit the tooth of the paper. Remember, this is kind of like the feel to this pastel mat is very much like a very fine sandpaper. So it's pushing it into there. Now I'm not using a lot of force, because if I manage to get rid of the tooth of the paper, then I'm not going to get another layer on top of it. But see how it's blending it and it's making it much darker. And it's also allowing me to get the soft edges where I want them to. So everything I do with oils, where I was talking about usually on my videos, doing things in the direction of the fur, that goes for pastel as well. So when I'm creating my marks, I'm almost always doing them in the fur direction, and when I'm blending, I'm doing the same as well. So now I'm going to make a start on the eye. And I'm just picking the colours from what I've seen in the reference photo. Now I can't share that photo with you, I don't own the copyright for it, but I can show you the finished painting, and you can work along with that if you're trying these things out, you know, just for practice purposes. But mainly my videos are showing you the techniques so you can use them yourself on your own work. But I'm just going, you know, by line of eye on the colour I'm seeing in the reference, and I'm trying to match that up with my pastel sticks. And I'm just going for it. Some things may go wrong, and if they do, there's no great loss. It's just a bit of paper, pastel, and my time. And I love doing this type of thing, so you know, it's really exciting. And if it actually works out at the end, that's a bonus. So I'm just blocking in the dark area at the top. I know this dark area needs to go really quite dark, probably darker than I'm doing now, but I'm pretty sure that I can get these pastels to layer on top. I've seen other people do it, and they kind of like, you know, it's like glazing really. So I've gone a little bit darker again. You can see how that's not obliterating the colour underneath, it's just sitting on the top. And of course the best blending tool that you've always got with you is your fingers. So I think with the fingers, the only thing you've got to keep in mind is that if you're messing around and blending a dark area, and then you go to a light area and you've got that dark on your finger, you're going to contaminate it. So it may be worth having a bit of an old t-shirt or old clothes on, where you can just give your finger a wipe. So trying out a bit of this earthy green colour, because there seems to be a bit of green at the top. Just building the layers, and remember, I'm working, as with oils, from dark to light. And I think that's probably better as well, because it means that, you know, I'm not going to contaminate the light colours easily when I'm blending these darks. So you can see how easily this blends. Now if you were to do that in coloured pencil, then you're going to be looking at odorless thinners. And the trouble I found with coloured pencils, when you put the odorless thinners on, well, they change colour. Well, they don't change colour as much as they change tone, so they go really dark. So it's difficult then to kind of work out what you're going to get. Unless you've got tons and tons of experience with it, it's hard to know what to apply down on the paper, because when you put the odorless thinners on with coloured pencil, that is, it changes dramatically. Now with pastels, it just sits there, so it's really quite an inert medium. So nothing is really changing, you're just blending colours together. So I've got this ochre kind of pastel stick now, using quite a light stroke. These seem to be so vibrant that I don't have to push hard at all the colours are really there, and this pastel mat is grabbing hold of those colours. So I'm just blending around with a different finger because it's a lighter area. That's my way of thinking. I got 4 fingers on each hand there that I can use without having to wash anything. And the thing that's surprising me straight off is that it doesn't seem to be any dust or powder. I thought this was going to be, I'm doing this flat down on a table, and I thought I would really have to use, you know, a vertical easel to allow the dust to fall. I know this is small, and probably if I was doing a big work I may actually find it beneficial to do that. But here there seems to be virtually no dust at all because this pastel paper, this pastel mat, is really grabbing hold of it and keeping it to the surface. So just blocking the areas in. I'm doing my usual squinting when I'm looking at the reference photo to the side, just so that I can see the major elements that I'm blocking in. Now when you're doing coloured pencil, when was doing coloured pencil, and believe me, I'm even less of an expert on that, but I was finding that because you've got to reserve areas, you've got to kind of draw negatively, that you can't easily block in the main shapes like you would with a painting. You kind of got to work on the details from the onset. And what I like about pastel is it appears to be this far in, which is only my first pastel drawing, that is very forgiving. It's very similar to oils in that you can go over the top, at least to a certain amount. Obviously there's going to be a level with this paper, with any paper, that you can't, you know, you can't keep going layer over layer because you're going to fill the tooth of the paper up eventually. But so far it looks like I can put a lot on there. And I know I want to smooth this area out, but I can actually layer colours as well and then blend them after. So it's creating lots of interesting effects with different colours mingling and in amongst each other. So you don't have to have the exact colour in your pencil set or pastel stick set. You can actually blend colours to make another colour. So I'm going to use a paper stump now, a soft paper stump, little circular motions, and I'm blending all these colours together because I want this to be real subtle transitions in between the colours. And I've started in the lighter area, as you can see, and I'm moving out towards the darker areas so that I'm not contaminating the lights. Now they're not going to look glassy until I've got the highlight in. Anybody that have seen my oil painting video, the masterclass on eyes, knows how important it is for the effect to get that highlight right. But I want these subtle transitions in between the colours so that it will have that glassy look in the end. And really light stroke here. I'm going into the dark area, just blending, little circular motions. And then if you've got a bit of dark on the actual stump, you can, and you want to put a darker area in the light, you know, you can use that stump then and actually deliberately contaminate the area to get a darker area. Okay, so I've got my pencils over to the left of me, I've got my little pastel sticks over to the right of me, so when you see me reach out to shot, that's what I'm going for. So there's no point me showing you, you know, in a lot of my videos I show the actual mixing palette on the side, but here I can zoom in a lot more now because I'm just picking up different coloured pencils, and I don't want to be telling you all the pencil colours that I'm picking up because I'm just going line of eye. I don't want to try and teach people methods where they're doing a paint by number type of effect, because you're never going to learn like that. I'm just going line of eye, I'm just guessing the colours I'm seeing, I'm trying to match them up. Okay, so the white of the eye on this bottom section is a real subdued grey blue. So I know mentally it's the white of the eye, it should be white, but it's in shadow. And when you're painting realism, that's what you've got to keep doing. Stop, look at the reference, and don't just paint or don't draw the colour you think should be in there. Actually look at it and see what really is in there, because sometimes you'll be surprised. Just because it's the white of an eye doesn't mean all of it surrounding it is going to be white. There's going to be lots of other colours in there too. You can see how real dark I've gone at that base. A real dark grey blue. And what I'm going to do on this video, I'm going to show you mostly in real time this right hand eye as we look at it, so you can see that and see how I build it all up. And I'll do that mostly in real time. And then on the left side then, because it's almost a duplicate of it, using different colors because it's going to be in shadow, then I'll speed it up so you can see that process grow. But this is not going to turn into a 2.5 hour or 3 hour video then. So going real dark at the bottom now. You know, one of the things I seem to love about this pastel work, and the reason I try to do coloured pencils as well, sometimes when you come in, perhaps you come in from work or you've come in from being out, or you just want to sit down, pick up your pencils and do 10 minutes of drawing. You don't always want to have to squirt out tubes of paint, put old clothes on in case you get paint on your clothes. You know, you just want to grab a couple of minutes and actually work. And coloured pencils are great for that, graphite's great for it, and also by the seam of it, pastel pencils as well, because I'm doing this in my good clothes. There's virtually no dust. I know I can just put these down, wash my fingertips, perhaps that'd be the only thing, wash my fingertips, and then I'm ready to go out if I've only got 5 or 10 minutes work available to me. So I like the immediacy of working with pencils. So this area on the eye is quite brown by it. It's in the white of the eye. I'm not sure why it's there, you know, but it is a browny area, and I'm leaving the parts that are going to have the extreme highlight on it, because I don't want them really contaminated. In future, I'll probably try putting the highlights in quite early on and seeing if I can reserve around it then, and see how that works for contamination as well and keeping itself clean, so I can see if it's better for me personally to put the highlights in first or last. So I've only been working on it now for perhaps 20 minutes or so, and it's already come along quite quickly. I'm surprised how quick pastels can come along. And the thing is, as I've said, I'm a complete beginner, so with a bit of experience I could select my colours quicker, and I could actually do this drawing much quicker as well. What I love about this is that I can go dark to light on most of it, and then I can think, oh, I could do a lightening that area up a little bit so I can put a light on. Then I can think, oh, but perhaps that's a bit too light, so I can go a little bit darker. I'm not thinking, oh, I've gone wrong. Now what am I going to do? I've gone too light. How am I going to get a dark on top? Or I've gone too dark. How am I going to get a light on top? I can switch between light and dark, and it's all sticking on top of each other, so that's why it's really a forgiving medium. So getting the white of the eye in now, even though this bit is in sunlight, it's still, the white is still really coloured. It's a dark grey, and there's also little bits of a pink or a warm colour in there as well, so it's anything but pure white. So see how I'm just kind of feathering that on, real light touch, getting a little bit of that pinky colour in there. Then I can go back to my light grey pencil. I know, I think one of the biggest tips or secrets of making drawing and painting easier, especially with oils and pastels by the seam of it, is to work on a toned ground, so to work on a toned paper. When I learned that, to do that many years ago, my artwork jumped. in quality straight away, because it makes it so much easier when you've got a mid-tone like this paper. I could have worked on a mid-tone grey paper, or it doesn't really matter because these pastels are so opaque it covers well. But the fact that it's mid-tone, so it's allowing me then to just easily see the darks and easily see the lights. I say about it in lots of my videos, but guys, if you're working on a white piece of paper or you're working on a white canvas, you're not doing yourselves any favours whatsoever. Really try out this toned paper or toned canvas if you're painting, and believe me, you won't look back. That's probably the biggest tip I could ever give anyone with this type of medium, is to work on a toned paper. Okay, so a little bit of the highlight, and the highlight's not white, it's reflecting the light of the sky above it, so it's quite blue. I'm going to go lighter again eventually. The birds are sounding nice outside today, even though the sun's not shining. I don't know if you can hear that actually on the video, but that's quite nice. Robins and blackbirds in the garden. So lots of blue going in there. I may even need to go a little bit more blue. I think I'll get the darker the eye in now, and that's going to allow me then to get that highlight in the top section, and I can overlap it a little bit. I'm going to leave the highlight part out for now, but I'm going to have to darken that bit, and there's a little bit at the top as well I need to get in. And the highlight, or sorry, the darker the pupil, usually got a bit of a blurred edge. So what I'm using here, this came in the pack, and it's a hard stump, because I want to push this into the paper to blend it. So I'm using the hard stump. So rather than spreading it out with a soft stump, I want it quite hard, and then later on I'll come in with some darker colours to soften that hard pupil edge. So re-establishing this dark and just adjusting the shape. I know I need to come down on the top part of that eye shape as well. Got a couple of pencils in my hand now. I can see that I need to put some back, otherwise I'm going to end up with probably 20 pencils in my hand, and then I can't see what colours I want to use. Just lightening a few areas up with that blue, and then gently softening, and just some vertically touch in there. So rather than spreading out, I'm just softening the black off, just removing some of it. Right, a little bit of a pinky white at the bottom. It's just what I'm seeing in the reference, just trying to match those colours a little bit. And I think a lot of the time spent with pastels, if you want it to be a relaxing hobby, a lot of the time should be spent actually studying the colours you want and selecting them as well. So rather than rushing ahead, take your time with it. Really look at the colours, really be mindful of the colours that are in the reference photo or wherever you're working from, if you're working from real life, and then take your time selecting them as well, rather than rushing in and getting the wrong colour on there. Just darkening that top section. Now I haven't had to sharpen any of the pencils yet because it's a brand new set, but I've already done a quick test because I know I'm going to have to sharpen them eventually, and I've used my standard sharpener, which is a swordfish one, and it's got a crank handle. I think I actually talk about it on one of my older YouTube videos, and that seems to work perfectly well with these, no problems at all. Because these pencils seem that bit harder than a charcoal pencil, which generally crumbles in a crank handle sharpener. So so far so good, and if it continues to work, that'll make sharpening a heck of a lot easier. with the sticks then I'll probably end up sharpening those to a bit more of a chisel point so that I can you know, get the edge a bit better and be a bit more precise with them. But I don't want to particularly, because you spend a lot of money on these materials, it seems awful waste then to rub them away on a bit of sandpaper to create a chiseled edge on them. So that's just the miser in me coming out, and I don't like to waste the materials. I think they spend a lot of time preparing these and perfecting them. I don't want to waste them, so I'm just going to use them as they are for now, because I'm not doing real detail with them. But if I'm starting to do perhaps individual hairs, then I'm going to have to start sharpening those little sticks as well, probably on a bit of sandpaper. So I've got a bit of green in the top part of the eye as well then. Building these layers up, building the colours up. Very, very similar to painting. And I'm using that little bit of paper there just to rest my hand on. Now, why am I starting with the eye on the right? Because I'm right-handed, obviously I should have started with the eye on the left, and then I wouldn't have been putting my hand on pastel painting that I've actually done. But you know what, I'm doing the voiceover on this obviously after I've done the drawing, so I know it worked. And to be honest with you, I wasn't really expecting it to work, nowhere near as well as it does anyway. So I just set the camera up. I haven't messed with the exposure or anything like I normally do, so you'll see it go a little bit lighter and a little bit darker, which you don't in most of my videos. But I just put it up there and I push record. I just sat down. I thought, you know what, the most interesting eye is right hand side. I'm going to work on that. I don't think this is going to work, or I'm going to struggle with it. It'll probably end up in the bin and it's going to take me a few attempts. So I was just going to leave the left eye and not even bother with it, or perhaps try that one out, you know, another day. But it worked much, much easier than I was expecting. So I've ended up doing both the eyes, because I thought, well, it'll actually be quite a cool painting to finish, painting, drawing. So that's why I'm working on the right hand side. Normally it should be left, probably starting in the top left and work my way down to the bottom right, just to keep my hand off of it. But with this pastel mat, it seems very resistant to easily smudging as well. So it, you know, you wouldn't want to rub your hand over it, but a little bit of touching it here and there doesn't seem to matter. I'm just bringing my reference in a bit closer, because I want to look at the shape of the eye, and I know I've got it wrong at the top, so I've come down a little bit on there and that looks better. And the black I'm using there is actually out of the is a Conti stick, or Conti pencil that was actually in the set. So just seeing if it was any darker than the black in the Carbothello, and it seems to be about the same, to be honest. It's always good to have a couple of blacks and a couple of whites, because then you're not sharpening all the time. So look how easily now this is sitting on top as I'm doing these highlights. Virtually no blending or contamination with the colours underneath whatsoever. It's just sitting there. I'm just checking the colours on a bit of paper, because I want this to be actually quite blue here. And then I can select another pencil, lighten it a little bit more. As I get more experience, I'll know the colours a bit better. I'll know what I've got in my set. But I must admit that the actual colours on the shaft of the pencil is very, very similar to the colour that's going down, so it's a good indication. Sometimes with pencils you can you know, the actual colour that's going down on the nib is so different with the colour of the tip of the pencil or the back end of the pencil, but these are really good. So you can see now with that highlighting, I was starting to come alive a lot more life coming in it, looking a lot glassier. So a bit more of a creamy colour now. And this is one of the colours though that does look a lot lighter going down than the colour on the shaft of the pencil. So I've got to be careful with it. I don't want to go too light. Just a little bit of that grey on the bottom edge. I'm so impressed with how the pastel mat is holding the pastel, and you know, it's really sticking into it, especially when I'm doing these highlights. So it's a bright highlight now. And look, it's just, you know, sitting on the surface, but it, you know, I could blow that and it's not going to move. It's really on there. I don't even think I'm going to have any spray fixative when it's all finished to keep anything in place. But I'm thinking ahead now, and I'm thinking, well, the eye seems to be turning out alright. I hope I can actually manage to get the fur to work as well. And is that going to work by doing a dark underlayer, just like I would with painting, and building a layer of lighter colours on top, then re-establishing the darks, you know, and then getting the final highlight on the fur. I hope that's going to work in the same manner. And it's not just going to... When I did this years and years ago using different materials, what I found was everything just smudged. Nothing would layer on top of each other, and I don't think the main problem was the pencils, because I was using Pitt pastel pencils, and you know, it's a good make. I haven't compared them directly with these Carbothellos yet. I will do, but the problem I had was the paper. It just would not hold. I'm sure I was using a small pack of that Daler Rowney type of paper, and the lines were showing in it, and it just looked so amateurish. And you know, some of these materials, they cost a lot of money as well, and that's why I like to review materials, because being a professional artist, I'm lucky enough to sometimes get materials for nothing from suppliers. They ask me to test things out for them and to compare them. You know, they're confident in their materials. Sometimes they're really great. More often than not, unfortunately, they're rubbish. And it can be a real expensive hobby trying different papers, pencils, in particular pencils. Trying them out and buying sets only to find that they're not any good at all. And that's a big investment that you've lost then. So I think that's why years ago, after I give pastels, you know, I bought a £15 set. I bought a pack of paper. Tried a little bit of fur out, didn't work, just left it. So that's the actual eyeball itself, pretty much done now. I could have not taken that to that level of completion like I do with a painting. Usually I just, you know, get everything blocked in, but because I'm new to it, I'm really taking everything slow and steady.